For centuries, this path was forgotten. It's only recently that Norwegians have rediscovered a passion for pilgrimage. It's nothing unusual in Spain or Italy, but in Norway it was once an act of rebellion. Now it's become a popular movement. It's day 10 for these pilgrims walking the route from Dovrefjell to Trondheim. They've covered about 20 kilometers a day. They relish the simplicity of life, when everything's reduced to what can be carried in a knapsack.
You forget everything else apart from the immediate reality, because all you're focused on is getting from here to there.
I have problems with one of my ankles and my back, so walking is the best thing for it, preferably without shoes.
Since the Reformation, Norway has been predominantly Protestant. The reformer Martin Luther was harshly critical of pilgrimages and what he called pious running about. In 1537, Norway even made pilgrimages an offence punishable by death. So it was a minor sensation when, over a decade ago, the first pilgrim routes were reopened. And pilgrims took to the trails again for the first time in almost 500 years.
We've been working for a few years to revive these routes. Here in the highlands, the path is probably the same as it was originally. It hasn't been changed in the landscape like it has down in the valleys. So it's the same as it was maybe 700 or 800 years ago.
But after centuries of neglect, it's sometimes hard to know which is the correct route. Should one walk over the passes, as the original pilgrims probably did, or should the trail lead through the valleys, which is what the villagers would like? EIVIND is a kind of pacemaker, leaving signs for others to follow. After 7 days, the pace starts to slow down. But at some point, pilgrims realize they don't notice their feet anymore, and they're simply alone with their thoughts. Norwegian men looking to find themselves tend to keep to themselves and take a while to warm up.
On hikes like this, men are individualists. They stay on their own. Women tend to find their place in groups more easily. Maybe it's because women here in the north are very self-confident anyway, and there are more women pilgrims than men compared to the St James Way in Spain.
Despite seeking total isolation, the Nordic man still enjoys a decent footbath and isn't averse to a bit of chit-chat about warm-up exercises and hiking sticks. Nowadays, the pilgrim route is much easier than it was 800 years ago, and doubtless the added creature comforts help make the hiking tours so popular. Every day, the 5 or 6 hour walk is followed by a hot meal. A 3-course dinner of local specialties, and then it's off to bed. Meanwhile, any heavy baggage is packed up for a car to bring to the next destination. But there's one thing that Norway's past and present pilgrims do have in common: the quest to find oneself. And out here is the place to do it. Norwegians have always loved the great outdoors. Even Queen Sonja has traveled the pilgrim routes, albeit incognito. In addition to water and sturdy shoes, pilgrims need one other thing: a goal. In this case, it's Nidaros, known today as Trondheim. The remains of St Olav are said to be buried near the cathedral here. Luther would be turning in his grave if he'd witnessed this kind of pilgrimage. But for today's pilgrims, it's less about honoring the old saints and more about a new perspective.
For example, if you wanted to pray and you suddenly tripped over a stone, then you might forget what you were doing. You'd be thinking about the stone, and suddenly your mind would be somewhere else completely.
Times have changed. Making a pilgrimage hasn't been a capital offense for many years. On the contrary, The pastor is the one leading the group on today's pilgrimage trail.